In this first problem, we're going to take a look at rational expressions, and we're going to figure out how we're going to reduce this down to put it into simplest terms. We're also going to look and see what are the restrictions going to be on the value of x. So what we want to take a look at is what can we do to factor this and factor this. So what are the factors of 10 that add to 7? We've got 5 and 2. So we get x plus 5 times x plus 2. And then in the denominator, we're going to ask ourselves, what are the factors of 10 that subtract to 3? So we're going to be looking at, again, 5 and 2, and we want to get a negative 3, so we want to have x minus 5. So we're going to do x minus 5 times x plus 2. Now again, just to make sure that we're doing the right thing here, FOIL this back out. X times x is x squared. We get 2x, 5x, 7x, and then 10. X squared, 2x minus 5x is negative 3x, and then negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. So we know that these are the correct factors. Now what we're going to do is, anything that looks alike, we're going to cancel it out. So x plus 2 and x plus 2 go away. So we're going to be left with x plus 5 over x minus 5. And then we've got to determine what can x not be. Well, in this case, in this factor, x could not be 5. And in this factor, x could not be negative 2. If we had 5 or negative 2, our denominator would be 0, and then we'd have an undefined expression. For problem number 2, we're going to multiply two rational expressions. And here we've got x squared plus x minus 6 over x minus 5 times x squared minus 25 over x squared plus 4x plus 3. So again, the first thing we're going to look to do is go ahead and factor these down. So what are the factors of 6 that subtract to 1? And that's going to be x plus 3 times x minus 2. We don't have to do anything with the x minus 5, so we'll leave that as is. Then we've got a difference of squares, so x plus 5 times x minus 5. And on the bottom here, what are the factors of 3 that add to 4? So x plus 3 times x plus 1. Now, just like any time that we're multiplying fractions, we can look to reduce vertically or we can look to cross reduce. So in looking to reduce vertically x plus 3, x minus 2, and x minus 5, there's nothing we can do there. And there's nothing we can do here either. But if you look at x minus 5, we can reduce that with that. So that's going to leave us a 1 there. We can reduce this x plus 3 with this x plus 3. And now we're left with x minus 2 times x plus 5. And that is going to be over x plus 1. Okay. Now we need to look at restrictions. So the restrictions on this, x could not be anything that was in the denominators. So we cannot have a 5, we cannot have a negative 3, and we cannot have a negative 1. Now there is a chance that the book or a test or whatever may ask you to go ahead and take this back out to polynomial. So if it did that, go ahead and FOIL this out. And you're going to get x squared, and then 5x minus 2x is 3x, and then minus 10 over x plus 1. Just make sure you follow the directions. Sometimes it may want you to leave your answers as factors. Sometimes it may want you to rewrite the polynomial. All right, so in problem number 3, we're going to take a look at a division problem with rational expressions. So 2 minus x over x squared plus 2x plus 1 divided by x squared plus 3x minus 10 over x squared minus 1. Again, the same rules that you would use for dividing fractions are in play here. But before we start doing that, let's go ahead and factor this down as much as we possibly can. So what I want to do with this is I want to think of this as negative x plus 2. And I want to get rid of that negative that's in front of the x. So I'm going to factor out a negative 1. So that's going to become negative times the factor x minus 2. So if I were to go ahead and put that back through, negative x plus 2, same thing that I have there. Then on the second row, what are the factors of 1 that add to 2? So x plus 1 times times x plus 1. That one is just a perfect square trinomial. Then I'm going to keep my division sign, and I'm going to go to the numerator here. What are the factors of 10 that subtract to 3? So again, this is going to be x plus 5 times x minus 2 over a difference of squares, x plus 1 times x minus 1. Now the next step in this process is going to be to decide, is just going to be to go ahead and make this into a multiplication problem. So that remember, whenever we're dividing fractions, we're always going to take the second fraction and we're going to flip it to make it its reciprocal. Then we're going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign. So this is going to become negative x minus 2 times x plus 1 over x plus 1 times x plus 1 times x minus 1 over x plus 5 times x minus 2. Now I can start reducing vertically and cross-reducing. So x minus 2 and x plus 1 and x plus 1, there's nothing there. But I do have an x minus 2 here and an x minus 2 here. I have an x plus 1 here and an x plus 1 there. There's nothing else that can be done there. So now it's just going to be a negative times x minus 1 over x plus 1 times x plus 5. Now I need to look at the restrictions. So to find the restrictions, I'm going to go back to this one right here. And anything that was ever in the denominator is going to be a restriction on x. So we've got a negative 1 here. We've got a negative 1 there, which we've already got, and then a positive 1. And then up here we've got a negative 5 and a positive 2. So those are all of the restrictions on x. None of those things can be x, because it would make our problem undefined if we were to leave them in. There you have it.